Hey everyone, we are going to take a look at the story BT Dubs. As of the time I'm broadcasting this, I wrote it live yesterday. I'm going to go through the editing process today on this particular story. It's running right around 1,200 words, and it'll probably be a little bit longer when I add a couple things in, so it's not quite flash fiction length anymore. But that's okay. We'll let every story become what it's meant to become. They gave you no mouth, the android ringmaster said to the new robot recruit. The foil segments of the ringmaster's lips moved and folded with each syllable like lips made of flesh. Inside the drum of the ringmaster's red and gold striped body, gears and electronics echoed through him, standing above him. I'm going to change that a little. Standing tall over him, the pipe thin robot, so I need to make a dash there. The pipe thin robot stared down at his new boss from pale glass eyes. Of course, the new recruit said nothing. That's not a problem. We have plenty of mute workers. You'll fit in just fine. The ringmaster looked him up and down. You must. Okay, let me do one more thing. I wanted to add a couple extra arms on this guy because of some of the stuff this robot does later. It would be convenient if we just mentioned that he had many arms. So the new recruit had 11 different arms with as many different appendages at the end of each one. Alright, the new recruit had 11 different arms with as many different appendages at the end of each one. Of course, the new recruit said nothing. Okay. You must have 9 different colors of metal on you. These days, some makers do that on purpose. They appreciate the irony. I'm guessing you came by your mismatched parts honestly. Again, not a problem. We have a place for you at BT Dubs. The ringmaster turned and walked through the corridor. The recruit followed without being ordered. They emerged in the Great Hall. I should capitalize Great Hall, as if this is a formal place that they all know. As gears echoed inside the ringmaster, the clanks and crashes in the various rings echoed. Let me say circus rings. The various circus rings echoed through the empty seats. Now I've used echo too many times. Okay. Alright. Okay. Instead echoed, resonated through the empty seats. I understand you have repair skills. Obviously, we need plenty of that. He motioned toward a spring-loaded cannon. Beyond that, a loose net looped up at an angle. Again, I wrote this live yesterday, so I was plowing right through that first draft. The spring fired, and a thin shape flew through the air. The acrobat took a superhero pose and held it through the arc of the flight. At the last moment, the daredevil did a flip into the net. As the ringmaster continued through the hall, tall robots lifted the acrobat out of the net. This performer had no feet or hands at the end of the limbs. Let's not use appendages again. At the end of the limbs. The acrobat had no mouth opening either. One of the robots carried the acrobat through an archway off to one side in the dark curve of the wall. He'll be checked for damage, repaired, and returned to rehearsal for more tricks. Turnaround time is vital in what we do. We can't have performers down, and we need them back in action, sometimes for the very next act. How quickly can you work? The ringmaster stared up into the glass eyes. After a moment, his foil lips twisted up into a cartoonish grimace. Right, the no-mouth thing. Not a problem. Show me your torch, new guy. The recruit lifted one of his arms. one of his arms with the torch attachment on the end. He fired up a tight flare of white plasma. The ringmaster recoiled. Hot as the sun. Nice, but a little too bright for the surgical repairs we need here. That might be fine for welding plates on ships bound for the stars, but we don't need you melting our performers into goo, do we? The white flame reduced to blue and then purple in a laser-thin beam of heat. Put a dash there. Compound adjective. Impressive. Moving along. In the center ring, titanium bars rose up out of the floor several feet into the air. If the audience was there, they would have been high enough above to see through the open top of the cage. All right. Inside, a metal beast that was not a bull, a rhino, nor an elephant rampaged around the circle, snorting out hot steam and flinging its iron tusks about. Smaller performers struck its hull with swords and, I want to say, be more specific here, 3-pronged tridents as the metal beast barely missed them. Most people know what a trident looks like, but if I say it's 3-pronged, then some people who don't recognize that word immediately will have a mental picture of it, and that's really what you want from any story. Okay. The others scattered at the edges. No, I missed a line. One of the smaller gladiators got too close. I want to take out the word got. It's too kind of passive. Let's say swung. One of the smaller gladiators swung too close and took a tusk to the metal chest plate. The gladiator lifted into the air with a metal-on-metal clash. Now, the funny thing about metal-on-metal is that I actually looked that up today to try to figure out whether it should be dashes in between or no dashes. There is no consensus on that. You can find it both ways, and not just random people on the internet, but in legal documents where they're talking about metal-on-metal, usually in medical malpractice suits. Even in those cases, sometimes it's metal on metal without dashes, sometimes it's metal on metal with them. So there is no consensus on that, so I'm just going to leave it without the dashes. The others scattered to the edges, but the beast charged before the gladiator in the air even landed. This is why we need robots like you to help make repairs. The beast ripped its tusks through the armor of the performer on the ground and tore him in half. Well, we might need your brightest torch this time. Then the monster planted one solid hoof on the chest plate and crushed it flat under the immense weight, flattening out. Let's make this one a different thing. Crushed it under the immense weight, flattening all the works inside. Fluids. Dark fluids leaked out of the ruined body. There we go. Okay, maybe we'll let that one go. Moving on. They reached the third. Moving on. I wanted to add something here. Okay. Small robots on wheels waited at the bars to vacuum up the spills once the performance was over. Small robots on wheels waited at the bars to vacuum up the spills once the performance was over. Alright, there you go. They reached the third ring. A small car crashed into a rubber barrier and flipped to its side. Doors opened and dozens of performers painted to look like clowns poured out. Most set about the choreography of the dances and slapstick comedy. A few limped along. One clown clutched its chest and collapsed to its side at the edge of the ring. Yeah, we don't get the sturdiest ones, no offense. Grab that one up, would you? He can be your first repair. The recruit hauled the broken clown onto his shoulder and followed the ringmaster. Do I have that? Okay. Followed the ringmaster through another shadowy arch in the side of the wall. At the end of the corridor, they entered a chamber full of screams. All right, chamber full of screams. Just pick an empty table and get to work. No better way to get oriented besides getting right to it. Let me send besides to than. It's a little more natural for that phrase. No better way to get oriented than getting right at it. As soon as you are done, they'll clear the body back into rotation, and another will be placed on your table. Just keep working and you'll fit in just fine. I'm glad you don't have a mouth because I couldn't hear you over all this screaming anyway. The ringmaster left the way they had come in. The robot had to walk several rows to locate an empty table. He moved the broken clown's feet to keep from knocking over IVs attached to the damaged performers as other robots put them back together. The new recruit slipped on a puddle of blood next to one of the trains, but his gyros were good and he kept his balance. In is a better preposition there. Slipped in a puddle of blood. I mean, if you have puddles of blood, you should be slipping in them, not on them. At the fresh table, he laid the clown out and strapped down his wrists and ankles. He attached an IV and then took the paddles. Let me take then out here. I have a bad habit of putting in too many thens. And took the paddles from the side of the table. He tore open the clown's suit. All right. I don't think I need open here. I can cut that. He tore the clown's suit and shocked him. The body bucked, but the heart did not keep going. He shocked 3 more times before the clown awoke and started screaming too. Okay. As the performer blubbered and begged to die, the recruit made small incisions. The recruit made small incisions and drilled in bolts to hold broken bones in place. He melted metal into the incisions to coat the bones to keep them from breaking again. The recruit stepped back, and the clown was carried away by other robots. I want to add a little bit more horror here. Okay. He opened the chest enough to insert a pacemaker on the struggling heart. Blood welled up between the ribs, but he had an appendage. Let's say he had an attachment. He had an attachment for that and vacuumed oh good lord, I'm not even close spelling that correct, am I? There we are. And vacuumed up the spilled blood. Alright, let's do a little bit more here. The clown clown's eyes rolled up in his head and he began seizing. The recruit bored out a hole in the side of his skull and I should be able to spell skull right, wouldn't you think? Every horror writer should be able to spell skull right. Alright. The recruit bored out a hole in the side of the clown's skull and attached a small implant directly on the brain. As the clown stilled, the recruit tossed the circle of bone aside and used melted metal to seal the hole. Alright, let's see if that makes sense. He opened the chest enough to insert a pacemaker on the struggling heart. Blood welled up between the ribs. Not the rips. Rips would work too, but I'm saying ribs. But he had an attachment for that and vacuumed up the spilled blood. The clown's eyes rolled up in his head and he began seizing. The recruit bored out a hole in the side of the clown's skull and attached a small implant directly on the brain. As the clown stilled, the recruit tossed the circle of bone aside. Let's say the circle of cut bone aside and used melted metal to seal the hole. The recruit stepped back and the clown was carried away by other robots. Instead of being passive, let's do this the other way. And other robots carried the clown away. Anytime you can take out passive voice is a good day of editing. Another human performer was placed on the table in front of him. This one was an acrobat. It took 3 robots to strap him in place. He did not scream because the flesh of his mouth had been melted closed. He had hands still, but no feet. This one might have been on the trapeze. The recruit looked him over and... Let's not look him over. If you're a robot, why don't you just scan him over? The recruit scanned him over and only found a small hairline fracture in one shin. Not a big deal. He cut the flesh over the shin open and poured in hot melted metal to reinforce the bone. Rehearsals had to go on, and the human performers needed to be ready and able when the android audience arrived for the show. The new recruit stepped back from the thrashing acrobat and waited for his next patient in need of repairs. BT Dubs was the greatest show on any world, and the show always went on. There's one thing I remember early on. I used the word action, and I want to think that there's a better word. I also used the word appendages here, and I think I might have a better word. So a little touch up here. The new recruit had 11 different arms with as many different appendages, probably attachments, as many different devices attached at the end of each one. Okay, so that I like that better. And then I find the word action. Okay. He'll be checked for damage, repaired, and returned to rehearsals for more tricks. Turnaround time is vital in what we do. We can't have performers down. We need them back in I'm going to say circulation. Circulation. Sometimes for the very next act. How quickly can you work? All right, so that is that. And now we have a nice story about a robot circus where the humans are the mistreated performers. You can't ask for more than that in a horror/sci-fi story, I don't think.